Okay, so take me back maybe 18 months ago. What was the series of moments that led to your trigger moment starting your journey?
I was in a situation where I was very unhappy at work, very unfulfilled. And I was going through the thinking around what do I do, long term to become fulfilled. Um, and I figured that I wasn't happy in the corporate world in general. I had a couple businesses running in the background, so I had taken the decision to go full time. And as a result of that, you kind of look at the bigger picture and you realize, to be running a business, you kind of need to be top form in everything. So it led me into a sort of rabbit hole, discovering, who it is that I want to be. And as you know yourself, being self-accountable requires a lot of discipline, a lot of, being in top form every day. So it was, I think I had come across your book at the right time when I was considering resigning from work. And I would go on lunch walks listening to that book. And it wasn't a case where, a lot of people had come across RNT and they think about it for a while and, they say, oh, maybe in the future. For me, I had followed RNT. I had been following RNT for a while, but it was more around, it's an interesting page, just to keep updated with, recipes and workouts and, updates, because it's just stuff that I find interesting. And I would, go in and out of phases of fitness and nutrition and all that. So I had come across RNT, but I had never considered, that could be something I would be doing. But something flipped around that period of time, where I was like, something has to change for me to be happier and fulfilled day to day. It's kind of two and two came together. I resigned from work, and then I think a couple of days after, I enrolled.
What made you think RNT was the answer to helping you in that stage?
I resonated with the long-term approach. I was intimidated by it. The year-long commitment. I was definitely intimidated by it. But that's what I needed to do.
Why were you intimidated by it?
Because there was no question I could follow a plan. Every time I tried to follow a plan in the past, I followed it and I saw results. And I'm of the opinion that, if you want to lose weight, if you want to, become fitter, anything, any plan you do, if you follow it through, it's going to work. Unless you have, certain conditions that require certain adjustments, insulin resistance and all that. But for the average person, I honestly believe, if we stick to a program long enough, then we'll see results. And the problem that I had was I'd stick to it, I'd see results, but then I wouldn't know how to sustain it. And I think it's the long-term, the long-term perspective that I was getting from RNT that I wasn't getting anywhere else. What do you do after you reach your goal? Because I don't want to be dieting for the rest of my life, I just want to be free. Part of my values around, leaving the corporate world and running my businesses and going into, this type of fitness is to be free. And what does freedom mean? To not be defined by, I can't do this, I can't do that. Yeah, it has to come with a certain level of discipline, but, you kind of have to have the structures for that.
Did you not feel free before in your
No,
life?
not at all.
Why is that?
I didn't know how to navigate it. Like I said, I followed my nutrition plans and they were successful. But the moment I didn't have the fundamental education and, the foundations that, explain how, how to keep the change, how to be the person that makes healthy choices long term once you've lost the weight. And I grew up in a household where my dad is, generally healthy. He's been almost the same weight his entire life. But my mum and most of my, extended family are not. And there's a obesity running in the family. And I grew up seeing some of those healthy habits, but also, the exact opposite. And, having food as a way to, as a coping mechanism. And that was my issue, being in the corporate environment, having stress, from every sort of, corner every day. Food was my coping mechanism.
How would you approach that? Would it be something you go home to, or was it in the day? Was it snacking? Was it binge eating?
I've gone through various phases. Maybe 15 years ago, I had lost a lot of weight. Actually, I was very similar weight to where I am now, but I had lost the weight in a very unhealthy way. I would drink water and weigh myself.
Oh, wow.
I would eat a grape or a cherry tomato and weigh myself. So it was getting to that level.
Is that as in through the day?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I think I was borderline anorexic. I wasn't diagnosed with anorexia at the time, but I was definitely borderline. And I think I had that bitter aftertaste of what it feels like to have gained the weight after you lost so much weight. Because I would then consistently go, resort to food, as I said, and it would come in various phases in different ways, either through snacking or just not having the concept of moderation around food. I had lost the, what it means to eat and be satiated after a meal. I didn't know where to stop. And in various phases, because I was, underneath, I was a health conscious person. I would go in and out of these phases. I would go into a healthy phase and then come out of it, go in, come out. So overall, I was trending at around a similar weight, but over the years, it was trending upwards. And it's only when you realize that work and having a busy schedule requires you to, put yourself last, essentially, to be able to cope with the stresses of everyday life. And I think when I had made the decision to go into RNT, I realized that I just have no choice. I have to make myself the priority.
What was the conversation you had with yourself to overcome the long-term commitment? Because you're now 15 months in, or not 15. You're 12 months in now.
About
having renewed for your second year.
Yeah.
So now you've changed your perspective. What was your conversation where you thought, right, how do I get over this?
I had actually gone into a call with I think Darnell.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. When and I didn't know whether I was gonna say yes, I'm gonna sign up to RNT or no. I didn't know before the call. I just said to myself, I'm just having a call to explore. And during the phone call, I realized, yes, it's hard, but everything I'm trying to do right now is hard. I'm trying to run 2 businesses, 3 businesses. I'm trying.
One's hard.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to leave work. I'm trying to, be my own boss, as cliche as it sounds. Live free, and all of it is hard. So it's not meant to be easy. So I realized that I had to do it the proper way. Otherwise, I would just go back in circles like I was doing every year before that.
When you said that you went through this period of borderline anorexia, where do you think that's come from? Where do you think that bit? of your life came from, and I guess it's the opposite to the other experiences you had where you were struggling with being out of control.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look back, I know you mentioned some things from your childhood, but where do you think do you know specific moments or things that you can pin it to?
I'm not entirely sure, and I haven't really dug into it, to be honest. It was 15 years ago, so it was a long time ago, and around the time I was at university, and I was dealing with the stress of a difficult degree, right? I studied mathematics, and I ended up graduating with a really good degree, but it came with its challenges. I think it was mostly self-inflicted. I didn't, I wasn't, having any pressures or anything from the outside world that I needed to look a certain way. It was all the pressures that I was putting on myself.
What's the self-dialogue that you have with yourself in these moments?
The self-dialogue today?
Yeah. Or just in these like high stress scenarios, because I think you've linked it to different moments where stress has been perceived to be high, whether it's the degree, whether it's the corporate world. When you're in those stressful environments, what's the self-dialogue that's happening?
It changes and it varies on the situation, depending on the situation. But what I found is that in the past, it's been around. There's been a lot of self-criticism. Even though I could be, I could be doing well, I could be doing well enough compared to what you see out there. I was raised to be a high achiever. There was a lot of pressure from parents, well, from my mom in particular, to be the top, whatever you do.
Well, out of interest, was it actual pressure? Now looking back, was it actual pressure or was it pressure you perceived from them?
It was pressure that I was perceiving.
So you thought there was pressure? Yeah,
it was pressure I was perceiving. But
I can relate to that.
Yeah, but and also my mother, as mothers do, they look at their children as being special, and I perceived it in such a way that I had to deliver on it. And it came in different forms, like I said, at different phases in my life. When I was at university, it was the bottom end of the spectrum. When I was coming out of the corporate world, it was at the top end of the spectrum. But these days, I find the dialogues are a lot more healthy, a lot more grounded.
Just to like take you into get into your mind there. What were you saying to yourself? And you said like self-criticism, but describe some like sentences.
It's a really tough task to do when you've come out of it, So the easiest thing for me to explain is the more recent experience around how I was using food as an outlet to overcome the stress from work, which was the top end of the spectrum. I would just switch off my brain from thinking about the side effects of having, snack after snack or, bigger portions of food. I would just not think about the side effects of that, because that would give me comfort to focus on what I was trying to do, to finish my work, to finish my studies, and that was it. I could only focus on one thing at a time. And I found that by switching off whatever had to do with nutrition and exercise, I could then focus on delivering on what I had to do, which was, delivering at work.
And what were you saying to yourself?
I'll deal with this afterwards. I'll deal with the consequences of eating second and third and fourth snack afterwards.
And what was your conversation around the work or like the performance?
The performance was, because I was seeing performance, that's the thing. I was placing emphasis on the wrong thing. Performance related with regards to being a high performer at work. And I was, but that came with the side effect of an impact on my health. really, really bad relationship with food, really bad relationship with sleep, and, cycles of lack of sleep, and I would just be like a robot. I would just, turn up to work.
Just turn off the emotions and just execute.
Just do what you need to do, turn up to work, deliver what you have to do, and deliver it to the best of your ability, even if that means you sleep for 30 minutes at night. You do what you need to do.
How did you feel when you looked at yourself in the mirror?
At the time?
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking about it too much. I wouldn't spend too much time thinking about these things. I would bury them. Yeah, I would definitely bury them. And it, and it affects a lot of areas of your life, right? Relationship with your family. I would just bury them because I could only cope with one thing at a time. So that was the easiest thing for me to do.
Yeah, wow. So when you started your RNT journey,
mm-hmm.
And you decided to commit to making a lifestyle change, what were some of the problems that you faced at the beginning, or obstacles you faced at the start of your journey? Or how did you find that beginning where suddenly you've gone from putting yourself at the bottom of the barrel to now actually having to go for a walk, sleep for a little bit longer than 30 minutes?
You know what the insane thing is, that I found it really easy in the beginning, because I had already gone through the mindset shift that, I'm just doing this for me. And I remember when I signed up, the start point wasn't until a month after. Yeah. And I was just asking the RNT people, can I not start like next week? And they're like, no, sorry, we don't have a cohort starting next week. The next one is next month. And I was like, oh, that's a shame, because my motivation is going to go down in a month's time. But yeah, somehow I just stuck to it. And I had already gone through the shift that, I'm doing this for myself. I'm investing in myself here. So I will just do whatever I need to do. And I had already resigned. So I was already, kind of putting in place what I needed to put in place for the future.
Okay. So you found it relatively straightforward to get started.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you started moving through the process, what made you think, you know what, I might do a photo shoot?
I'll be entirely honest. I didn't know that the photo shoot was optional.
Oh, really?
I had no clue.
Oh, wow.
I went in thinking, well, all I'm seeing here is photo shoots, so I need to do it. Yeah. So that's what happens when you have no option.
Yeah.
And then I realized, by being around the coaches and, the other team members, I'm like, people are thinking twice about this photo shoot. Oh, I didn't know that I had an option about it. I went into it thinking that.
That's a pretty good thing then. You went in thinking, I'm going all the way.
Yeah, and the insane thing is that I did my a couple months before the shoot, I still couldn't see how I could achieve what I was seeing the other results, the results from other RNTers to be, as photo shoot worthy.
Yeah.
Material, let's say. And it's only when you get closer and closer to peak week that you get that. And I appreciated at that point that, you just need to trust the process. Because I was just following what I was told. I couldn't see it. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't, I didn't know, much about it. I was just turning up to my coach, asking silly questions, discussing, everything that was on my mind. I was literally writing, essays to my coach every week. It was like a therapy session.
And what were you uncovering about yourself? Because it is a therapeutic process getting into shape.
Yeah.
Like, I think you can lose weight and just lose weight and you're probably going to gain it back. Or you can lose weight and actually think about what's happening to yourself.
Yeah.
And it becomes an introspective experience.
Yeah, it was very introspective for me.
What did you learn about yourself?
Oh, loads of things. I've learned how to navigate my what's the word I'm looking for? How to optimize myself, essentially. I know, for example, now that if I don't sleep well, the next day I'm going to be hungrier than normal. And in the past, I would be like, well, I'm always hungry. So I would be harsh on myself that, I can't stick to a diet plan. But I wouldn't really think too much into it because, really, if you don't sleep, you're expending more energy, you're going to be naturally hungry, right? So now because there have been occasions where I haven't slept enough during this last few months, my understanding around how my body works has allowed me to essentially not be harsh on myself and just keep following the process, even if that means, follow it 80% to plan and not try and be perfectionist about it. Because for years I would struggle with, being a perfectionist and be all these black and white sort of approach. And that's what hadn't worked. I was actually looking back at my check-ins on my way here. I have no single week that my adherence was 100%. All of my weeks have something red in them, whether it would have been a little bit less sleep, a little bit, I hadn't stuck to the hydration probably or the nutrition probably because I had to do a lot of travel for business and all that stuff. So it's this understanding that I've developed that, and I think this is what this process is trying to teach you. Don't try and be perfect. Just, follow, even if you follow 80% of the of what you're trying to teach us here, then something is gonna happen. Obviously, to reach the photo shoot worthy sort of look and outcome, you kind of have to stick to it and go deep into it. And that's totally transformed my thinking around. I can do basically anything I choose to do. Everything else seems simple now, whether it is, business, whether it is, dealing with situations at home. It has kind of elevated the battlefield in a way. I've taken on a lot more complex projects for business since doing that shoot, for sure.
How did you structure your lifestyle around business and this fitness journey? Because a new business is it's a beast in itself.
It is.
How do you balance that with the pressure that you put on yourself with business? Because it can be easy when you're in the startup phase to think, I'm just gonna slowly just put myself to the bottom because this business needs it all, even though you came in with all the best intentions.
Yeah. I was lucky that I was working with really good and really understanding business partners. I wasn't doing everything myself. But also, I would always think long term. The reason I'm full-time into business is because ultimately I want myself to be the priority. I'm doing this so I can, enjoy my life with a family at some point. I don't have a family of my own at this point, but eventually. And a lot of the things that have motivated me was seeing. I think you talk a lot about your daughter in your podcast and stuff. I don't want to be the sort of parent that they just don't have time to pick up their kids from school, or they have to prioritize someone else's business. And I'd always have that at the back of my mind that, yes, business is difficult, but I'm here because ultimately I'm building this around me. So if I was faced with two conflicting priorities, am I going to do my steps now or am I going to respond to this email? I'd always do my steps first. So I'd just make a point, and the people around me knew.
How's your relationship with food changed in this process?
Oh, it's It's incredible. I mean, my cupboards are still, overflowing with stuff that my parents bring from Cyprus whenever they come over, but they don't faze me anymore. I really enjoy nutritious food. If I have the choice between, something that's packaged that has, a certain number of calories, I know, for example, for the same number of calories, I can get a lot more volume from something natural, more nutritious. So I always go, like my brain has started thinking in those ways now. And I'm not being too restrictive, especially after checkpoint. My goal is to put on some weight, but, it's been 2 months now and I've put on 1 kilo. I need to put more on. But when you do things properly, putting on weight is hard.
Yeah.
And I just realized I'm just seeing this now.
So true.
Yeah. I'm just seeing this now every day because, every day I chat to my coach and I'm like, oh, maybe we need to increase calories again.
Yeah.
So the relationship with food is definitely.
What happens in stressful scenarios now? Because life still continues.
Mm-hmm.
How do you now respond to it? How do you manage your state? Because before it was such a linked association. Stress, food. What is it now?
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There are still situations where with stress, I do want food and I do resort to food, but the type of food I resort to is different. I pick my fridge is always stacked with vegetables, for example, or I know, I make a certain type of drink like decaf coffee that I can have if I have like cravings late at night.
Yeah.
So I have these strategies where, there's certain types of food that I resort to that I have now linked to those stressful situations. And the thing is, it sounds simple, but the longer you do these things and the longer you stay away from all the unhealthy options that, that I, for example, was associating, stress with, the more you see yourself as the person who resorts to these healthy foods. And James Clear in his book Atomic Habits talks about this a lot. You kind of have to do in the beginning, whatever you're trying to do is not going to feel natural. It's going to feel like a bit forced. But the more you do it, the more like credits you give to yourself. That you're that person that does that thing, whether that thing is picking up a healthy snack or going to the gym, and I've seen it more and more, and I've just learned to trust that.
Yeah.
So now it's natural for me to, when I'm stressed, my first response is, you're stressed, so don't go for something unhealthy. Go for something healthy, and you can have more of it if you want. So I resort to green vegetables and things like that. But
I mean, that's a massive step.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's raiding the pantry or the biscuit cupboard.
Yeah.
That's the previous default. There's only so much cucumber you can have.
There is. But also the other mindset shift was around who am I trying to be? Like I can't be the person who runs like multi-million companies and the same person that raids the cupboards. Like it just doesn't click. It doesn't come together. I
mean, that's the biggest way you stay in shape. It's the only way, really. Yeah. You stay in shape. And, we talk about how do you eat out and stay in shape? How do you travel and stay in shape?
Yeah.
Ultimately, it all comes down to your identity. And when you lose weight, you've got a new body that has old wiring that's still in there.
Yeah.
And to change the wiring takes a long time. You have to get under the hood and start replacing one wire at a time. And it's like you said, it's having more and more associations of, okay, I'm stressed, but I didn't do this. I'm stressed, but I didn't do this. Now I do this.
Yeah.
And it's just reinforcing that. So you rewrite the
narrative,
sort of hardware or whatever it is to then become that person. And when you are that person, then you don't need to have a plan for when you want to travel. You don't have a plan for when you go to a restaurant because you just do it. And you just naturally gravitate to the right things and you stop when the time's right.
Yeah, the life-changing moment for me was when a few weeks ago I went to New York and I was very intimidated about that trip, because you know how portions are in America. And I had that trip at the back of my mind for months, and I was so scared that I would just go there and not know how to deal with it. It turns out that I came back at exact the same weight as I was before I went. And the aim was to, you know, my coach was telling me, even if you put on some weight, because we're in a period where, you know, you need to put on some weight right now, it's fine, and we'll deal with it afterwards. But you know, all the strategies you learn around how to, you know, buffer, and, you know, how to, you know, the understanding around food, because this is what RNT was for me. You know, it's not just following the plan, it's not just doing the exercise, it's a lot more than that. It's learning about yourself and learning about how to navigate these stressful situations, navigate travel, navigate commitments. So that all that was the real proof for me was that trip in New York.
Amazing. Yeah, it's not the easiest place to go.
Yeah.
Have you spoken to your parents about this?
Yeah, my parents know.
And what do they say?
It was quite hard in the beginning, because in my culture, it's very similar to the Asian culture. It all revolves around food.
Yeah.
So at various stages, when I was spending like Christmas and stuff in Cyprus, everybody would be like, "Oh, you're dieting again." So they would look at my plate and they would just put stuff in my plate, and I'm like, "You guys just look at your own plate. Why do you, you know?" There was this thing that if you don't do what the masses do, you're considered weird. You're considered not normal. So I was getting a lot of that. My mum would throw comments like, you know, I know you're trying to lose weight, but you're eating so much avocado. I don't think you're gonna lose it, and you know you're gonna lose any weight. Because she'd be very like black and white about when I needed to lose weight or not. So she wasn't trying to fight the fact that I needed to lose weight initially, but she'd have these, you know,
whether you're going to do it or not,
her opinions around, you know. But now she's asking me, "Oh, what do I need to do to, you know, can I have avocado like you did? Or, you know, how can I have my avocado, and how much of it can I have?" I did get pushback when, you know, closer to peak week, because obviously, you know, I was losing a lot, and your face becomes thinner and all that. But I'd always be like, "Mum, I know what I'm doing. I'm speaking to professionals here. I'm being watched every week. I'm not doing things just out of my head here. I am following a plan." So, but she still say her stuff, and
mums will be mums, eh?
Yeah.
How's the physical been the vehicle for you?
In so many ways, Akash. It's been like I said, in business initially. I had a vision for my business, but right now, like it's exploded. I can't even explain.
What is the business, out of interest?
It's an investment business. All of them are investment businesses in various fields, but primarily property investments. It's become so much easier for me to raise money, talk to people, you know, have like a reference point to connect with people. A lot of people have reached out to me, you know, as, you know, to talk about this journey. And then it kind of led into different conversations about business. I remember I was at a birthday party of a friend, and this lady approached me and she said, you know, I'm pretty impressed that there's all this stuff here and you haven't touched anything. And I said, well, I'm following a plan. I have a photo shoot coming up. And she was like, oh, what's this? So I explained a little bit, and she was like, and I showed her my before pictures.
Yeah.
And she was, because I knew her for a while, and, you know, clothing can be very deceiving, right? So when you saw me with clothes on, you couldn't tell that there's an unhealthy person underneath. And especially when I was in a healthy phase where I would eat the right things and, exercise and all that stuff. So she was pretty impressed as to where I was by that point. And I wasn't close to checkpoint yet. I was probably like 2 months, 2 months away. And she turns around and says to me, I'm so inspired. I think you're the kind of person that can really deliver with a difficult project, a challenging project. So how about I lend you £1 million?
Wow.
Yeah. So it's it has had side effects rather.
There you go. There's the ROI. Anyone wants to know what you earn on the other side.
Yeah. So yeah, the kind of conversations you have.
Amazing. Yeah. What would you say to someone who's thinking, is this for me? Should I do it? I might start the journey.
Really, you kind of have to decide whether yourself is a priority. If yourself is a priority, there's no question. Life is gonna get in the way, and it was probably a little easier for me because I live by myself. I cook for myself. No kids to take care of at this point. And other people might be at later stages of their life. There's kids in the way, husbands, wives. I think because when I started doing this, I was still at work, so I was still constrained in some way, shape, or form. There is always going to be something. There is always going to be a business trip. There's always going to be a birthday party. There's always something that's going to get in the way. So really, it's around dropping the mentality that I'm waiting for a calm period of time. Like, life is not going to be calm for 12 months in a row. So you either decide that you're putting yourself as a priority today, and you just go for it, and you're going to deal with whatever comes when it comes. Like I did when the New York trip came up, like I did when, all those business trips came up. So I didn't think I could navigate that, but with the support, with the accountability, there's more than enough there. There's more than enough ways to, get motivation, get the discipline that you require, that, if and only if yourself is a priority, then there's no question.
Amazing. What's next for you, Stella?
I just keep doing what I'm doing, I guess, because it's worked. And I'm on to year 2. I'm excited for that. I want to see, obviously I want to gain some weight now and become stronger. So there's a lot of fitness challenges that I want to try. We'll see from there.
Amazing. Thanks so much for sharing your story, Stella.
Thank you.